You unwrap the new Gillette razor as though it were a delicate gift from fate, and also a tiny agent of existential dread. The metal glints under the morning light, sharp and shiny, like a miniature executioner waiting patiently in your bathroom. Advertisements have promised smoothness, elegance, and societal approval, but in reality, it feels more like holding a very small, very judgmental sword. You cradle it carefully, feeling the cold metal against your palm and imagining every advertisement ever printed whispering, "Use me correctly," or "Live with shame." The razor is astonishingly light in your hand, yet it carries an invisible weight. It is responsibility and anxiety forged into steel. You tilt your head, inspecting the fine edge, and wonder whether women in the future will look back and marvel at how audacious you are, or pity you gently for ever attempting this ritual. The packaging insists that happiness and smooth underarms are inseparable, and you are now part of the experiment. Your reflection in the mirror stares back calmly, which is slightly unnerving. It knows what you're about to do. Your corset presses quietly, reminding you that elegance is not merely about posture, it is also about surviving small, precise acts of terror with dignity. You wet your underarm slightly, letting the warm water soften the hair, and the razor waits. Patient, gleaming, judging. The first stroke is tentative. Your skin shivers slightly beneath the metal edge. Advertisements promised a painless, transformative experience, but reality is educational. The razor slides cautiously, leaving behind the faintest trace of smoothness and the subtle thrill of tiny rebellion against nature itself. You imagine the headlines: "Woman triumphs over hair. Society rejoices." In truth, it is more like a delicate negotiation between courage and anxiety, each pass measured, careful, and full of reverence for your own skin. You pause, take a deep breath, and examine your progress. The underarm looks marginally less scandalous, a victory in this strange battlefield of grooming. Yet the mirror seems to scrutinize you, as if asking, "Really? Is this your best effort?" You respond with a quiet inner shrug. You are doing your best in a world that insists perfection is mandatory. Every stroke is simultaneously cleansing, moral instruction, and absurd performance art. Your mind wanders slightly, as it tends to do during repetitive, slightly terrifying tasks. You think of the women who came before you, fumbling with scissors, pumice stones, or harsher contraptions. You imagine letters exchanged in hushed tones. Did you use the new safety razor? Did it hurt? Did society approve of your arms today? Each historical echo mingles with the gentle scrape of the razor against your skin. A subtle panic rises as you approach the second underarm. Precision is key. The slightest slip could result in a nick, a tiny accident that might leave a scar, a blemish, or at the very least, a mild indignity. You take your time, steadying your hand, breathing slowly, imagining the advertisements celebrating your success. The razor glides, and the underarm transforms into something approaching perfection, or at least the 1890s version of it. Finally, the task is complete. You hold the razor up for inspection, now a tiny trophy of courage and compliance. Your arms are smooth, your reflection approvingly neutral, and your mind buzzing slightly with the absurdity of it all. You have survived a ritual designed to instill fear and elegance simultaneously, and you did so with dignity, patience, and mild existential terror. You step back from the mirror, letting the room's light settle over you. The tub, the soap, and the corset seem to nod gently in quiet approval. You have completed the first act of the day, bathing, grooming, and negotiating with societal expectation all in one small, intimate performance. The razor rests now on the counter, harmless yet ever present, a shining reminder of the day's next absurd challenges: perfume, dress, and the ceaseless whisper of history in your very pores. You glance at your underarms in the mirror, freshly shaved and gleaming under the polite morning light. And yet, a small, persistent voice nags in the back of your mind. Is it enough? Advertisements and advice columns have been whispering for decades that every stray hair is a scandal waiting to happen. You lift your arm slightly, rotate delicately, and inspect the smooth skin beneath, half expecting it to sprout a tiny protest in defiance of societal expectations. The anxiety is subtle but persistent. Even with the razor safely resting on the washstand, your mind continues its little loop of questions. Do I look elegant? Do I appear proper? Will the neighbour notice a hint of fuzz and gasp quietly into her lace handkerchief? Every tiny imperfection is magnified, each follicle a potential public offence. You breathe slowly, trying to remind yourself that underarm hair is natural, historical, and perfectly fine, yet society has long disagreed. As you reach for a small powder puff to soothe and scent the area, your mind wanders to the advertisements you've seen. Elegant women with arms that shimmered like porcelain smiled from the glossy pages, each image a subtle assertion that smoothness equals virtue, desirability, and moral superiority. You wonder if anyone has ever simply chosen to leave their underarms alone and gone about life with a shrug. The idea seems revolutionary, almost daring, and yet intoxicating in its simplicity. You dab gently with powder, the scent of lavender and soft soap mingling with the residual warmth of the bath. Each motion is careful, almost reverent, as if you are negotiating with your own body. The mirror reflects your efforts with silent approval, or perhaps just neutrality, which is the next best thing. You breathe deeply, acknowledging that a tiny ritual of grooming has become a battleground for personal peace, social expectation, and historical compliance all at once. The anxiety is amplified by memory, conversations overheard in parlours, whispers from friends, subtle hints dropped in passing about proper grooming and societal elegance. Even children, in their innocent curiosity, occasionally point at your arms, giggling and offering unsolicited advice. You smile politely, hiding the twinge of panic that surfaces whenever a small, judgmental gaze falls upon your freshly shaved skin. You think about the endless options available to women of the era: pumice stones, scissors, depilatory creams and razors, all promising perfection, all carrying tiny risks. Each method is a negotiation between bravery, pain, and societal approval. You marvel at the sheer ingenuity and terror of marketing campaigns that transformed personal hygiene into an ethical imperative. Smooth arms were no longer optional, they were civic duty, personal morality, and a secret source of existential dread. Despite the anxiety, there is a strange satisfaction in completing the ritual. You feel the delicate smoothness beneath your fingers, the faint powder scent lingering in the air, the reassuring weight of compliance with historical expectations. Your reflection nods quietly, acknowledging the success of your small, absurd triumph. You have navigated a minefield of cultural imperatives, tiny razor blades, and moralized advertising and survived intact. As you lower your arms, you feel the subtle pull of the corset and the gentle tug of your sleeves, reminders that elegance is always paired with mild discomfort. You take one last careful look in the mirror, allowing yourself a quiet, private sigh. The underarm hair anxiety may never fully disappear, but for now it has been appeased. You are smooth, presentable, and historically accurate, a tiny victory in a world where everyday grooming has been elevated to an art of both terror and triumph. Finally, you step back, stretch carefully, and prepare for the next challenge. Standing tall, shoulders back, and ribs politely protesting as you navigate the rigid expectations of 19th century posture. After all, Smooth arms are only half the battle. Elegance, as history teaches, is never passive. It is a constant, carefully choreographed performance. Standing up straight is no simple task in the 1890s. Your corset, snug and unyielding, presses against your ribs like a polite but firm moral instructor. Every breath is measured, every movement deliberate, and every tiny sway of your torso is a negotiation with history itself. You tilt your shoulders back carefully, feeling the slight resistance of boning and fabric, and remind yourself that elegance is not merely suggested, it is enforced, one gentle squeeze at a time. The mirror catches your reflection, revealing a figure simultaneously poised, slightly constrained, and absurdly aware of the laws of physics and social expectation. Your spine feels like it is hosting a very polite protest, reminding you that comfort is overrated and proper posture is a civic duty. You sway ever so slightly, testing the tension of the corset, imagining the invisible committee of Victorian ancestors nodding with mild approval, or sighing softly at your audacity. Walking is an intricate dance. Each step must be measured. Heel first, toe next, torso upright, head aligned. One misstep could result in a stumble, a sigh from a neighbour, or the faint judgment of the mirror across the room. You imagine yourself gliding down a hallway, a careful blend of elegance and tension, each movement a subtle performance designed to convey confidence, dignity, and the illusion of ease. Your corset hums quietly against your body, a reminder that control is not just physical, it is moral, social, and historical. The chair you approach for morning tea seems almost conspiratorial, aware of the pressure to remain upright while still performing the small, daily acts of living. Sitting requires precision, knees together, back straight, shoulders slightly back. You perch delicately, feeling the gentle compression around your midsection, and realize that every mundane movement is now a tiny exercise in grace under mild duress. Even pouring tea becomes a study in geometry, balance, and subtle intimidation of your own digestive system. Outside, the morning air drifts through the window, carrying smells of baked bread, horses, and faint smoke from a distant chimney. It is refreshing, but also a reminder that elegance is not just internal. It is external, visible to anyone who might glance at you, assessing whether your posture aligns with the era's exacting standards. You imagine walking down a cobblestone street, each step a careful negotiation with gravity and expectation, each sway of your hips a potential scandal or triumph. As you adjust your shoulders, the corset tightens slightly, reminding you that elegance comes at a price. You breathe carefully, in through the nose, out through the mouth, counting each breath like a meditative exercise. Every inhale stretches the chest just enough to remind you that mobility is possible. Every exhale reinforces the quiet, persistent discipline demanded by social norms. You feel simultaneously powerful and restrained, confident and anxious, a living paradox wrapped in fabric and boning. Your reflection in the mirror observes silently, noting the gentle tension in your neck, the poised tilt of your chin, and the careful alignment of your shoulders. You imagine the whispers of advice columns and etiquette manuals urging proper posture as a moral imperative. Stand tall, they insist. Walk gracefully. Let no imperfection betray your inner virtue. You nod quietly, acknowledging the absurdity, but also embracing the challenge. Finally, you rise from the chair, each movement deliberate, smooth and measured. The corset reminds you of its presence with gentle pressure, but you move with newfound confidence, aware that elegance is not passive. It is constant, practiced, and slightly absurd. You take one final glance in the mirror, appreciating the balance you have achieved between form, function, and societal expectation. The morning is still young, but you are ready. Armed with smooth arms, careful posture, and mild anxiety, you step into the next phase of your day, navigating advertisements, social scrutiny, and the subtle terror of polite company, all while maintaining the perfect 19th century poise. You sit quietly in the soft morning light, tea in hand, but your eyes inevitably drift to the pile of newspapers and magazines stacked neatly on the table. Each page is alive with tiny whispering voices, promising salvation through smoothness, elegance, and compliance. The headlines scream, politely but insistently, "Your body is flawed. We have a solution." You feel a subtle shiver, a gentle tug of anxiety, as though these printed words are reaching out to inspect every inch of your arms, waist, and posture. Advertising in the 1890s is a curious mixture of science, morality, and subtle terror. Illustrations of impossibly smooth, smiling women glare at you from the page, their arms raised gracefully, their happiness apparently beginning at the elbow pit. Each image carries a clear, unspoken message. Smoothness is virtue, compliance is happiness, and imperfection is scandal. You sip your tea and blink slowly, trying to calm your mind, but the words linger like faint perfume, subtly shaping your thoughts. You imagine the advertising offices, filled with men in waistcoats and women in tight skirts, plotting campaigns that turned personal hygiene into a moral imperative. Each copywriter seems to whisper across time, convince her she is flawed, offer a razor, deliver bliss. It is a remarkable combination of ingenuity and terror, and you realize that your anxiety about underarm hair is not entirely organic. It has been carefully cultivated. You breathe slowly, exhaling gently, and remind yourself that fear is simply another form of historical instruction. As you turn the page, the language shifts slightly, growing more urgent. Words like objectionable, unacceptable, and improper float across the paper, each one a tiny arrow aimed at your conscience. You feel the subtle pressure of centuries of societal expectation pressing lightly against your shoulders. Even while sitting in the calm of your home, enjoying a quiet breakfast, the advertisements insist that vigilance is eternal. You straighten slightly, aware of your posture, and remind yourself, elegance is never passive. The illustrations themselves are fascinating. Women in flowing dresses, arms raised to display perfection, smile serenely as if to say, "We have solved the problem of humanity's innate inadequacy." You wonder how long it took to perfect such poses. How many artists leaned slightly too far or accidentally included a rogue hair. Each image is a carefully curated combination of reassurance and threat. You can be happy, but only if you comply. You nod slowly, imagining the absurdly precise world in which such an illustration was considered revolutionary. Even the small text in the margins is subtly terrifying. Tips for hair removal, promises of softness, hints that smoothness equals virtue. They all converge into a quiet loop of anxiety. You read and reread, feeling the gentle tug of social pressure that has survived the centuries. Every stroke of a pen, every line of advertisement copy has worked meticulously to convince women that their natural bodies are insufficient. The genius and cruelty is in the subtlety. You glance around the room. The mirror across from the table reflects your posture, your face, and your slightly nervous expression. The corset hums its quiet reminder of discipline. Tea grows lukewarm in your cup, and yet there is a strange comfort in understanding the machinery behind the fear. You are not failing because of yourself. You are performing beautifully within a system designed to insist that perfection is always just out of reach. Finally, you close the newspaper gently, placing it aside like a fragile artifact of persuasion. You breathe deeply, allowing the soft lavender from last night's bath and the warmth of your tea to soothe the tiny tremor in your shoulders. You are prepared, slightly anxious, and historically accurate, ready to navigate the next absurd stage of the day. Sweat, social expectation, and the quiet terror of polite observation, all while maintaining your meticulously constructed 1890s elegance. The sun is climbing higher, and with it comes the gentle, relentless threat of perspiration. In the 1890s, even a whisper of sweat is not just a bodily function, it is a potential social catastrophe. You feel it beginning under your arms, a subtle warmth that carries both physiological necessity and moral implication. You dab discreetly with a handkerchief, cotton pressed delicately to the skin, imagining that each tiny bead of moisture could be noted by an invisible observer, recorded in a ledger of etiquette violations. Your corset hums quietly around your torso, a constant reminder that elegance is not accidental. It holds your ribs, your posture, and your dignity firmly in place, but it also ensures that any bodily rebellion, sweat, wobbly balance, a stray hair, will be magnified by the very framework meant to contain you. Each small movement is a negotiation. Lift an arm, turn slightly, shift your weight. Every gesture must harmonize with propriety while defying the inevitable bodily protests. You imagine entering a parlor or sitting down for tea with neighbors, the faint aroma of baked goods in the air. Every handshake, every polite tilt of the head, every small movement of the arms is a delicate choreography. You adjust your posture subtly, hoping to appear composed, effortless, and impervious to the mild rebellion of your own body. Sweat is an uninvited guest to this performance, a subtle yet insistent reminder that humans, despite centuries of moral expectation, are stubbornly physical. A faint breeze drifts through the window, carrying hints of horse manure, coal smoke, and distant laundry lines. You inhale and exhale carefully, allowing the air to cool your skin, though only slightly. The handkerchief is your ally, absorbing the small betrayals of your body with quiet efficiency, while the mirror across the room observes in impartial silence. You wonder how many ancestors performed the exact same ritual, dabbing delicately while practicing the eternal art of calm detachment. Even the slightest misstep is fraught with social significance. A tiny glimmer of sweat on the wrist, a dampened sleeve, a misaligned cuff. Any of these could signal impropriety or weakness. You imagine the faint gasp of an etiquette-conscious relative, or the subtle judgment of a visitor whose eyes flick to your arms, scanning for signs of bodily disobedience. You smile politely at this imagined audience, knowing that the struggle against sweat is both absurd and historically necessary. Your mind drifts to advertisements once again, those tiny whispers from the page insisting that deodorants, powders, and careful ablutions can transform you into a creature of spotless elegance. You dab at your underarms, imagining the subtle protection these powders offer, and wonder how anyone ever survived a summer in a corset without developing nerves of steel. Sweat, it seems, is the final frontier of civility, a rebellion of nature that must be quietly contained. Even mundane movements, like reaching for a teacup or gesturing while speaking, carry potential peril. You move slowly, deliberately, feeling the gentle tug of the corset and the faint warmth of your own exertion. Each step, each gesture, is a negotiation between bodily truth and social fiction. You marvel at the subtle absurdity of it all. Humans have existed for millennia, yet every summer, every social gathering, the same tiny drama unfolds. Finally, the initial wave of anxiety subsides. You take a deep, deliberate breath, feeling the faint relief of being slightly in control of your body, even as it continues to betray you in small, inevitable ways. You acknowledge the absurdity, the discipline, and the quiet heroism of living in a society where sweat is a subtle scandal and composure is a moral imperative. You are poised, elegant, slightly damp, and historically accurate, a survivor of social etiquette and bodily rebellion, ready to face the next absurd stage of the day. Perfume, cover-up, and the delicate diplomacy of scent in polite society. The air in your dressing room is already rich with soap, lavender, and the faintly anxious scent of historical expectation. Now comes the perfume, that magical elixir promising not just fragrance, but moral and social legitimacy. You lift the delicate bottle, its glass cool against your fingers, and inhale lightly, allowing the aroma to mingle with the faint remnants of last night's bath and this morning's meticulous grooming. 1 spray, 2, careful, deliberate, enough to suggest refinement, but not so much that anyone accuses you of audacity. Perfume in the 1890s is a subtle battlefield. You are simultaneously announcing cleanliness, elegance, and taste while quietly masking the betrayals of your own body. The faintest trace of sweat, the invisible whispers of underarm hair, the lingering proof of corset-induced perspiration. You dab at pulse points, wrists, neck, behind the ears, tiny hotspots of significance, imagining each as a miniature stage upon which your societal performance unfolds. The scent spreads gently, curling around you like a polite cloud, softening the edges of anxiety. And yet, every inhale carries with it a minor panic. Have I overdone it? Too strong? Too faint? Will the neighbour notice? You tilt your head, lifting a delicate wrist to the light, and remind yourself that perfection is a moving target, one slightly unattainable by human hands, but beautifully achievable in aspiration. As the perfume settles, you notice the faint interplay of odours, the wood polish on the floor, the warm tea nearby, the subtle hum of the corset pressing insistently around your torso. Each element competes quietly for attention, yet the perfume asserts itself with gentle authority. It is a signal, a shield, and an invitation. Observe me, admire me, but do not critique my failures too harshly. You breathe deeply, enjoying the small victory of masking minor betrayals of your body while embracing the absurdity of it all. You imagine the advertisements again, those cheerful illustrations promising joy, social success, and moral perfection through fragrance. Women with arms raised gracefully, skirts flowing, smiles eternal, their happiness apparently tied directly to scent and smoothness. You giggle softly, realizing that these tiny bottles contain not just perfume, but a distilled essence of societal anxiety. Each drop carries centuries of expectation, lightly fragranced, waiting to mingle with your very real, slightly damp humanity. Even the act of spraying is delicate choreography. Tilt the bottle, keep wrists straight, allow mist to fall lightly, avoid a dribble. Imagine invisible committees of historical observers noting your technique. You perform the ritual slowly, deliberately, like a miniature ballet of scent and propriety. Each inhalation reassures and alarms simultaneously. You are fragrant enough to be elegant, but never so bold as to offend the subtle balance of societal expectation. The mirror across the room reflects your subtle triumph. Your arms remain smooth, your posture impeccable, and the faint curl of perfume in the air whispers approval. Yet there is a quiet, private acknowledgement that this ritual is absurd, beautiful, and essential all at once. You are both a product of history and a participant in it, negotiating elegance one fragrant puff at a time. Finally, you take a step back, inhaling gently, letting the perfume settle fully into your skin. The scent mingles with soap, powder, and a faint memory of morning anxiety, creating a subtle aura of historical compliance. You breathe deeply, appreciating the absurdity and triumph of the moment. You are polished, scented, and socially prepared, ready to navigate the world outside your dressing room. You are elegant, slightly anxious, and historically accurate. a living, fragrant monument to 19th century expectations, poised to face the next chapter. Letters, friends, and the quiet judgment of polite correspondence. The postman's knock is soft but inevitable, carrying with it the gentle anxiety of 1,000 social expectations. You approach the door, corset hugging your torso, arms smooth and scented, posture impeccable, and receive a small stack of letters. Each envelope is heavy with possibility, invitations, polite requests, and occasional notes from relatives who seem to measure your very existence in handwriting loops and ink smudges. You carry them to the table like a diplomat bringing fragile treaties into the room. You break the first seal delicately, imagining that any rough handling could provoke subtle censure. The letter opens, revealing elegant script, faint traces of perfume, and the unmistakable weight of judgment hidden in polite phrasing. "We trust you are keeping well," it reads, which translates roughly to, "We are mildly concerned that you are failing to uphold societal expectations." You sip your tea carefully, letting the words settle on your tongue like a tiny flavoured reprimand. Each letter is a miniature performance, a polite battlefield where you must navigate tone, etiquette, and expectation. Invitations to tea require careful consideration. Can you attend without appearing too eager? Without appearing too aloof? Will your corset survive the social hour without betraying your dignity? Notes from relatives carry subtle advice on posture, attire, and occasionally hair removal. Each sentence a gentle tug on the leash of your personal autonomy. You arrange the letters in order of urgency, imagining each envelope as a small advisor with an opinion on your life. One note encourages diligence with domestic duties, another hints at moral responsibility in the choice of friends, and yet another, slightly perfumed and curling at the edges, suggests that elegance is measured in small, almost imperceptible gestures. You nod to yourself, acknowledging the absurdity and subtle brilliance of this form of social governance. The act of reading becomes ceremonial. You lift one letter, adjust your posture, and inhale the faint scent of paper and ink. Each word is savoured, weighed, and occasionally sighed over. You imagine ancestors watching silently, noting whether your facial expressions convey proper humility, composure, and attention to detail. A wrinkle of the brow could be construed as displeasure, a faint smile as impertinence. Your reflection in the mirror observes all, silently approving or disapproving with quiet impartiality. Even responding requires delicacy. You select your finest stationery, dip the pen into ink with deliberate care, and let your hand glide gracefully across the page. Every loop of the Y, every flourish of the G is scrutinized, both by you and the invisible audience of etiquette itself. You imagine that each letter you send carries a subtle moral argument. Smooth arms, correct posture, and elegant handwriting are all proof that you are fulfilling your duties as a historically compliant human. The correspondence ritual stretches over several minutes, each envelope a small microcosm of society's expectations. You pause occasionally, adjust the corset, dab lightly at the wrist with scented powder, and return to the task with renewed concentration. You feel both powerful and constrained, capable of communicating, yet subtly dictated by the invisible, watchful hand of propriety. Finally, you set down the last envelope, slightly satisfied, slightly anxious, and fully aware that letters are never just letters. They are tiny mirrors of social judgment, fragrant messengers of expectation, and subtle reminders that personal comfort is always negotiable in the world of 19th century etiquette. You breathe deeply, letting the faint scent of perfume, ink, and tea settle around you, and prepare for the next absurd chapter: polite company, conversation, and the delicate negotiation of smiles, nods, and slightly judgmental glances. The doorbell chimes softly, and you straighten instinctively, corset hugging your torso, posture impeccable, arms smooth and lightly scented from your careful morning ritual. Guests have arrived. Polite company, armed with subtle judgments and carefully measured smiles, awaits. You take a slow, deliberate breath, aware that every gesture, every glance, and every word will be observed, weighed, and interpreted with gentle scrutiny. You greet your visitors with the calm precision of someone who has rehearsed social interactions countless times in the mirror. Hand extended, smile practiced but not forced, eyes bright but not overzealous. Each movement is choreography, a nod here, a slight tilt of the head there, a carefully measured step backward to avoid encroaching on invisible personal boundaries. You feel the faint tug of the corset with every movement, a gentle reminder that elegance requires constant, slightly uncomfortable vigilance. The conversation begins. Words float through the room like delicate, musical notes, each phrase carrying weight. You listen intently, nod politely, and respond with carefully chosen observations. Every laugh is measured, every sigh intentional. The faint aroma of tea and perfume mingles with subtle anxieties, yours and theirs alike, creating an invisible tension that hums beneath polite smiles. You notice the delicate interplay of glances, a raised eyebrow, a fleeting frown, the faintest twitch of a hand. Each signals approval, curiosity, or gentle censure. You offer tea, pouring with the slow precision of a seasoned diplomat. The cup warms your fingers, and the scent of herbs mingles with the lingering perfume on your skin. Each sip is a balancing act. Too eager, and you appear greedy. Too slow, and you risk seeming detached. You feel the gentle pressure of history pressing on your shoulders, reminding you that social grace is both art and subtle performance. You catch yourself fidgeting ever so slightly, a tiny ripple of self-consciousness. Did your corset shift uncomfortably? Did a curl of hair escape its careful arrangement? Was your underarm completely smooth, or is there a hint of imperfection betraying you? You laugh softly to yourself, imagining the absurdity of being simultaneously composed, scrutinized, and slightly panicked over minute details that no one else will consciously notice. Yet in this era, they matter. They always matter. The conversation meanders into familiar topics: the weather, polite gossip, domestic accomplishments, and the subtle hints of moral judgment disguised as concern. You navigate each turn with the precision of someone walking a tightrope over a pit of social expectations. Compliment here, gentle agreement there, slight nod to acknowledge virtue without suggesting superiority. You notice how minor gestures, a tilt of the head, a careful smile, a well-timed sip of tea, can convey volumes about character, propriety, and the careful management of historical etiquette. The faintest touch of heat rises under your skin, a whisper of anxiety in response to the subtle scrutiny. Sweat is still a concern, perfume your ally, and posture your shield. You adjust slightly, sip gently, nod with discretion, and let your mind wander briefly to the absurdity of the era. Humans, corsets, powdered hair, polite tea, and subtle judgment all swirling together in a ritual dance of civility. By the time the visit draws to a close, you are both exhausted and exhilarated. You have navigated the nuanced currents of conversation, etiquette, and subtle scrutiny, emerging relatively unscathed. You straighten one final time, offer your guests a polite farewell, and close the door with a sense of quiet triumph. The corset hums softly, the mirror nods silently, and the lingering scent of perfume reminds you of your invisible armor. Finally, you exhale, allowing your shoulders to relax just slightly, savoring the delicate absurdity and quiet victory of surviving polite company. You have upheld posture, composure, and the subtle social balance demanded by your era. elegance is preserved, anxiety is managed, history is respected, and now, with gentle relief, you can move on to the next absurd, slightly terrifying, and historically rich chapter of your day. Afternoon chores, correspondence, or the subtle tyranny of societal expectation in public spaces. The sun has climbed higher, casting a warm, relentless light across the household. It's time for afternoon chores, that delicate ballet of cleaning, organising, and surviving minor catastrophes while maintaining historical composure. You straighten in your corset, take a slow, deliberate breath, and prepare to engage in a series of tasks that are simultaneously mundane, absurd, and subtly terrifying. First, there is the dusting. A feather duster in your hand seems like a humble implement, yet it carries the weight of perfection. Every shelf, every mantle, every tiny ornament must gleam just enough to signal diligence without appearing obsessive. You sweep gently, imagining that any stray mote of dust is a silent critique of your character. The air fills with a faint cloud of particles, tickling your nose and threatening the illusion of calm. You sneeze softly, adjusting posture, and continue. Elegance, after all, requires resilience. Laundry follows, and with it, the faint scent of soap, damp linen, and lingering lavender. Washing, wringing, and hanging garments is an exercise in precision. Each fold, each carefully clipped hem must communicate domestic competence. You imagine that neighbours could, at any moment, glance through windows to evaluate your skill. You straighten the lines of a freshly hung sheet, smoothing wrinkles with fingertips, feeling a peculiar satisfaction at your miniature triumph over chaos. Sweeping and mopping the floors introduces a new rhythm. The broom hums softly as it traces the polished wood, the mop leaving damp trails that must dry perfectly to avoid scandal. You move in careful arcs, balancing speed with meticulous attention. Every footstep is measured, every gesture choreographed, as if the room itself is a stage and you are the central performer. The faint odour of polish mixes with sunlight and steam, creating a sensory symphony of domestic diligence. Midway through, chaos asserts itself. A vase teeters perilously on the edge of a shelf. A stack of linens threatens to topple. The cat, if present, is unhelpfully curious, brushing against your legs with tiny, judgmental paws. You pause, inhale deeply, and adjust the environment with careful, precise movements. Even small disasters become opportunities to demonstrate calm, grace, and the subtle art of controlled panic. You straighten a picture frame, smooth a curtain, and whisper quietly to yourself. Elegance must prevail. The kitchen awaits, promising a final test. Preparing food is both necessity and theatre. You chop, stir, and simmer with deliberate care, mindful of the ever-present expectations of propriety. Even the scent of cooking is regulated, pleasant, inviting, and subtly refined. You imagine guests arriving unexpectedly, evaluating your domestic prowess with unspoken judgment. The stew simmers, the bread rises, and you move among your tasks like a conductor, orchestrating a symphony of order amid natural chaos. Throughout it all, the mirror offers silent observation. Your posture remains impeccable, arms smooth, corset firm, and every gesture precise. Even in the midst of dust, laundry, and simmering pots, you are both participant and witness, navigating the intersection of bodily discipline and historical expectation. Each small success, each chore executed without catastrophe, is a victory in the subtle war against domestic disorder. By late afternoon, the household is calm, polished, and subtly perfumed with lavender and resilience. You step back, surveying your accomplishments. Dusted surfaces, neatly hung linens, floors gleaming faintly, and meals prepared with a quiet dignity. Despite minor disruptions, teetering vases, curious animals, or the occasional rogue sheet, the day has been navigated with grace, patience, and historical accuracy. Finally, you exhale, allowing the faint tension in your corset and shoulders to ease just slightly. Domestic chaos has been tamed, expectations met, and history quietly honoured. You stand amidst the organised, subtly fragrant rooms, a miniature hero of order and propriety, ready for the next absurdly meticulous chapter. Evening correspondence, reflection, or the gentle absurdity of preparing for the night while maintaining the illusion of perpetual elegance. The late afternoon sunlight slants softly through the windows, casting warm golden streaks across the parlour. It's time for evening tea, that gentle ritual which is equal parts comfort, social performance, and subtle moral inspection. You settle into your favourite chair, corset snug, posture impeccable, arms smooth and scented, and lift the delicate porcelain cup to your lips. The warmth spreads slowly, reassuring and slightly indulgent, as if each sip is a tiny victory over the day's absurd challenges. As the tea cools, you allow your thoughts to drift towards small confessions, tiny truths that you can admit only to yourself or the silent mirror. Perhaps you forgot to dust one corner of the mantle earlier, or maybe your hands trembled slightly while folding the linens. You smile quietly, acknowledging the absurdity and intimacy of admitting minor imperfections, knowing that even in an era obsessed with propriety, private truth is a small sanctuary. The act of sipping tea itself is choreographed with precision. Tilt the cup just so, avoid dripping, raise it gracefully to the lips, and exhale gently as warmth spreads. You imagine historical observers noting your poise, every sip a subtle demonstration of patience, composure, and refinement. Even the faintest tremor is an opportunity to display quiet resilience, elegance in the face of minor bodily rebellion. Conversation is light and carefully measured. If guests are present, each phrase is chosen with gentle deliberation. Polite compliments, subtle inquiries, and occasional acknowledgements of shared experiences create a rhythm of social balance. You nod politely, lift your cup deliberately, and let your corset remind you gently that grace is never optional. Every gesture, however small, is a miniature negotiation between personal comfort and societal expectation. Small confessions continue to flutter through your mind like delicate butterflies. Did you sigh slightly when the vase almost fell earlier? Did a twinge of impatience cross your face when folding the laundry? You acknowledge these internal truths without judgment, understanding that even the most historically proper person occasionally experiences minor rebellions of thought and body. Each admission is like a quiet release, a tiny balancing act between perfection and reality. You notice the faint aroma of tea mingling with lavender from the bath, and the subtle residual scent of perfume, creating a comforting cocoon around you. The soft ticking of a nearby clock blends with the quiet murmur of conversation, forming a gentle cadence that lulls your mind while keeping it alert to the nuances of propriety. You imagine countless generations of women performing similar rituals, navigating the intricate dance of etiquette while secretly confessing their small human truths. Your hands, still delicate and smooth from the morning's meticulous care, cradle the teacup. Each movement is graceful yet purposeful, a testament to the subtle mastery of daily rituals. You smile at the absurdity and brilliance of it all, the careful choreography, the private confessions, the quiet triumphs hidden within mundane tasks. Even a minor misstep, a spilled drop, or a misplaced gesture becomes part of the narrative of composure and resilience. By the time the tea is finished, you feel a sense of gentle accomplishment. You have navigated conversation, ritual, and minor confessions with poise and calm. The parlour is softly fragrant, the evening light warm, and the world outside slightly softened by the layers of history and habit surrounding you. You place the cup gently on the table, stretch your shoulders ever so slightly, and allow yourself a quiet smile. Evening tea and small confessions are complete. You have balanced grace, subtle rebellion, and historical accuracy, each element supporting the others in a delicate dance. You are poised, slightly amused, historically aware, and ready to transition into the next absurdly structured and calming stage of your evening. Quiet reflection, gentle writing, or preparing for the night while honouring the tiny rituals that make the day historically complete. The evening has settled like a soft blanket across the room, the last traces of sunlight fading gently, leaving the parlour bathed in muted gold and shadow. It's time to prepare for bed, a ritual both soothing and slightly absurd, particularly when your faithful corset remains firmly in place. You stand in front of the mirror one last time, arms smooth, posture impeccable, perfume lingering faintly, and begin the delicate process of nightly undress with a mixture of reverence and anticipation. Undoing a corset is an exercise in patience. The laces resist at first, gentle yet firm, reminding you that comfort has always been negotiable in history. You loosen slowly, inch by inch, careful not to disturb the structure that has guided your day with subtle, insistent pressure. Each tug is a negotiation, your body's desire for relief versus the lingering insistence of societal expectation. You sigh softly, feeling the tension begin to ebb away, and marvel at how such a simple piece of clothing can dictate posture, confidence, and mild existential anxiety all at once. As the corset comes free, you run your fingers along the impressions it has left on your skin. There is a faint memory of constraint, a soft reminder of elegance and propriety maintained throughout the day. Your reflection in the mirror smiles gently, acknowledging both your triumphs and the subtle absurdities of historical fashion. Even in private, the corset's influence lingers, a ghost of structure and discipline, whispering reminders of posture, poise, and minor victories over bodily rebellion. You move to wash the day from your skin, stepping into a bath or splashing water at the sink, feeling warmth spread slowly and luxuriously. Soap glides over arms, shoulders, and neck, carrying away faint traces of powder, perfume, and anxiety alike. The sensation is soothing, almost meditative, and each careful motion becomes a ritual in itself, cleansing not just the body, but the layers of expectation, effort, and social performance accumulated throughout the day. You breathe deeply, letting water, warmth, and subtle aromas guide you toward calm. Toweling off is gentle and deliberate. Every motion is mindful, every fold of the towel precise, as if even the mundane act of drying oneself deserves attention. You notice the faint echo of historical rituals, women long ago performing the same gestures, smoothing their hair, arranging garments, and releasing tension in small private moments. There is quiet solidarity in this shared absurdity, a comforting sense that, across centuries, humanity has always balanced elegance, expectation, and fleeting relief. Finally, you slip into night clothes, carefully arranged and lightly scented. Fabrics rustle softly as you move, creating a gentle soundscape that is both soothing and slightly absurd, reminding you that even the smallest garments carry meaning, purpose, and historical weight. You adjust your posture one last time, reclining gracefully on your bed or chaise, feeling the last traces of the day's corset-induced tension ebbing away. You allow your mind to drift, reflecting on smooth arms, delicate conversations, meticulous chores, subtle anxieties, and small triumphs. Each act of the day, the razor, the perfume, the etiquette, the letters, has been a miniature dance of calm, discipline, and gentle absurdity. Now in the quiet, the day's rituals dissolve into soft relaxation, and you can finally let the body rest, the mind wander, and the spirit sigh gently with satisfaction. As your eyes close, the faint scent of lavender, soap, and perfume lingers, the warmth of clean skin and straightened posture comforting you. You breathe deeply, slowly, and evenly, allowing your body to release the day completely. The corset is gone, the world outside quiet, and the layers of history, humour, and human endeavour settle gently around you. Sleep is near, inviting and inevitable, carrying you softly into the night while honouring the absurd, beautiful, and historically rich performance of the day. The house is quiet now. The soft hum of distant lamps and the faint creak of settling wood creating a gentle rhythm that lulls the mind toward reflection. You lie in bed, arms smooth, posture relaxed, and eyes closed, letting the events of the day float softly through your thoughts. Tonight, the world outside has faded, leaving only the echoes of domestic chaos, social rituals, and small, quiet triumphs to accompany you into rest. You think first of the morning, the careful razor strokes, the lavender-scented powder, and the perfume applied with delicate precision. Each act, performed under the vigilant gaze of history and societal expectation, was a victory in miniature. Smooth arms, straight posture, and the quiet hum of the corset were more than preparation. They were tiny revolutions of discipline, elegance, and humour. You allow a faint private smile at the absurdity of feeling simultaneously empowered and constrained by fabric, fragrance, and etiquette. Next, your mind drifts to social encounters, letters handled with care, polite conversation navigated with grace, subtle judgments acknowledged without panic. You recall small victories, a nod here, a sip of tea there, a minor faux pas avoided with delicate skill. Even the faint tremor of a hand or the smallest sigh has been transformed into a lesson in patience, composure, and quiet triumph. You feel the satisfaction of having negotiated not just the day's tasks, but the invisible currents of expectation and subtle moral observation that define the era. Chores, too, rise softly in memory. Dusting, laundry, sweeping, and cooking, each performed with deliberate intent. The faint chaos of falling linens, curious animals, and teetering vases has been gently tamed. Each small act, folding a sheet neatly, polishing a surface until it gleams, stirring a pot with care, was a miniature victory over disorder and imperfection. You savour these memories quietly, aware that such triumphs, though seemingly trivial, carry the weight of historical elegance and personal accomplishment. Even the tiny anxieties have transformed in reflection. Underarm hair, subtle sweat, and the pressure of social observation, all sources of mild panic throughout the day, now appear as humorous companions, reminders of the intricate dance between human imperfection and societal expectation. You chuckle softly to yourself, the sound muted by pillows, realizing that history is as much about resilience as it is about absurdity, and that surviving these tiny challenges is a triumph in itself. You allow your mind to wander further, imagining the many generations of women who performed these rituals in silence and solitude. Their mornings, afternoons, and evenings mirrored yours in strange, comforting ways. Small acts of discipline, moments of private rebellion, fleeting satisfaction in simple victories. Across time, the rituals connect, and you feel a sense of quiet solidarity with those who navigated life's absurdities with grace, humour, and resilience. Finally, your thoughts slow, settling into a gentle rhythm. The day has been fully lived, its victories acknowledged, its challenges recognised, its absurdities appreciated. You feel the gentle tug of sleep, the soft weight of blankets, and the lingering sense of lavender and soap mingling in the air. Each breath is slower, deeper, and more even as your body releases tension and your mind surrenders to rest. You smile faintly, a private acknowledgement of the tiny triumphs that define human life across centuries. Smooth arms, a relieved corset, polished floors, polite conversation, and carefully navigated social expectation. All achievements now tucked into memory, quietly celebrated as you drift towards sleep. The world softens, the absurdities fade gently into calm, and you rest, fully aware that even in the strangest, most historically rigid days, humour, resilience, and small victories endure. The room is dark now, softened only by the faint glow of a lantern left on a distant table. You are tucked under blankets, arms smooth, posture relaxed, and mind drifting. The transition from wakefulness to sleep feels like a gentle crossing of a threshold, a subtle slide into a world where reality bends lightly under the weight of dreams. Tonight, as you close your eyes, you enter the strange, whimsical, and occasionally terrifying realm of Victorian imagination. Your mind conjures the faintly absurd landscapes of history, cobblestone streets lit by flickering gas lamps, carriages trotting with surprising precision, and women gliding gracefully in layers of skirts, corsets forgotten by the laws of dream logic. The air is fragrant with lavender, fresh bread, and faint hints of coal smoke. It carries both reassurance and mild anxiety, the gentle tug of familiarity entwined with the unexpected possibilities that only dreams can provide. In this dreamscape, societal rules shift and bend. Corsets feel almost weightless, yet still encourage impeccable posture. Letters float in the air, hovering like polite ghosts, each carrying whispers of judgment or praise, waiting for you to intercept, respond, or simply admire from afar. Teacups move gracefully on invisible tables, filling themselves just when you desire a sip, the warmth spreading like liquid calm through the arms of the dreamer. You drift past familiar faces, neighbours, distant relatives, and kindly strangers, all performing miniature dramas of etiquette and subtle scrutiny. Their eyes gleam with quiet curiosity, and each gesture is exaggerated just enough to be amusing rather than alarming. You nod politely, tilt your head, or take a slow sip of imaginary tea, navigating these encounters with dreamlike composure. Each interaction feels weightless, humour and history intertwined, a playful rehearsal of life's more serious constraints. The streets of your dream city ripple gently with the absurdities of history. Gas lamps flare slightly in rhythmic pulses, cobblestones rise and fall like gentle waves, and horses trot with the grace of dancers who have forgotten gravity. You move effortlessly through these minor impossibilities, your corset a faint hum of reminder, your arms smooth, and your posture surprisingly elegant even in the illogical physics of dreams. Every step is measured yet whimsical, an amusing reflection of daytime discipline softened into nighttime fluidity. Objects float by, carrying their own gentle absurdity. A feather duster sweeps past like a friendly ghost. Letters swirl gracefully in the air, delivering advice and polite admonishments in a soft, whispering chorus. Even the scent of perfume lingers in impossible patterns, weaving through the dream city, guiding your movements and wrapping you in subtle comfort. You inhale deeply in your mind, savouring lavender, soap, and the faintly ridiculous perfection of historical expectation. As the dream deepens, you encounter moments of levity and mild panic simultaneously. A teacup tilts dangerously, a corset tightens just enough to remind you of discipline, or a stack of papers threatens to topple. Each minor tension is quickly resolved with grace, humour, or an imaginative solution. You catch the cup mid-air, straighten the corset effortlessly, and fold the papers with a flourish, all while maintaining serene composure. The absurdity is gentle, never frightening, coaxing a quiet smile from the sleeper beneath the blankets. Finally, the dreamscape softens further, the streets quiet, the floating letters drifting into gentle stillness, and the warmth of tea, perfume, and historical comfort filling every imagined corner. You feel yourself glide gently toward deeper sleep, carried on a river of absurdity, elegance, and faint humour. The day's rituals dissolve fully into imagination, leaving only calm, soft laughter, and the subtle triumph of having navigated both history and dreams with poise. And so, as your mind drifts further, you surrender to the quiet, comforting absurdity of Victorian dreams, arms relaxed, posture softened, and sleep wrapping around you like a gentle, fragrant, historically accurate blanket. The clock ticks softly in the quiet of the night, each second a gentle reminder that the world is asleep, while your mind drifts between reflection, curiosity, and the tiniest threads of anxiety. You lie in bed, arms smooth, posture relaxed, blankets tucked just so, and the gentle glow of a distant lantern flickers faintly across the room. Midnight has arrived, a time for thoughts to wander freely, unchecked by daytime expectation, yet still carrying the subtle weight of history. Your thoughts drift first to the day's accomplishments, the tiny victories tucked neatly into memory. The smooth arms, the carefully applied perfume, the delicate handling of letters, and the nuanced navigation of polite conversation all rise in quiet procession. Each success feels amplified in the stillness of the night, the world outside hushed, and the house wrapped in soft shadows. You allow yourself a faint private smile, the kind reserved for those who have survived both corset and convention. But then, as the mind tends to do in the absence of distraction, gentle anxieties arise. Did you maintain perfect posture in every conversation? Was your powder just sufficient to mask the faintest betrayal of sweat? Did any letters receive a glance that could be construed as insufficiently elegant? Each worry is small, polite and contained, more a whisper than a shout, but it dances in the mind like a delicate moth circling a dim candle. You breathe deeply, softening the tension, reminding yourself that historical expectations, though formidable, are now merely echoes in the quiet night. The imagination stretches further, conjuring the faint absurdities of 1890s life. You picture neighbours judging your underarm smoothness with gentle curiosity, letters delivering whispered critiques in perfumed handwriting, and corsets humming quietly as if sentient, reminding you of both elegance and constraint. Each image brings a quiet chuckle, the kind that sneaks beneath your pillow, warming your mind even as it flirts with anxiety. Humour and reflection intertwine, softening the rigid edges of history into a gentle, almost playful meditation. You drift next to minor, imagined disasters of the day, a teacup nearly spilling, a vase wobbling dangerously, a stack of linens threatening to collapse. Each crisis, now safely behind you, is replayed in slow motion, your mind savouring both the absurdity and your delicate triumph over it. Even the tiniest misstep, the faintest tremor of a hand or the briefest sigh of frustration, feels monumental when revisited in the hush of midnight, yet also amusing, proof of your resilience and grace. The rhythm of your breathing slows as these thoughts unfold. Each inhale brings calm, each exhale releases tension, washing away the faint anxieties that arise in the still night. The subtle scent of lavender, lingering perfume, and warm linen wraps around you like a soft, comforting cloak. Shadows stretch gently across the walls, the furniture stands silently in patient observation, and the world feels suspended in a perfect balance between history, humour, and quiet reflection. Finally, the mind begins to surrender fully to the soothing lull of sleep. Midnight musings become gentle currents, carrying thoughts of small triumphs, absurdities, and human resilience down soft, winding streams of relaxation. The body, free of corset, tension, and expectation, relaxes completely, while the mind drifts, hovering between consciousness and dream. The anxiety that once whispered now softens to a murmur, blending seamlessly into humour, reflection, and gentle satisfaction. As you nestle deeper under your blankets, you feel the quiet joy of having navigated history, societal expectation, and the absurdities of everyday life. Midnight musings fade into soft, dreamlike currents, leaving you calm, comforted, and ready for the deepest, most restorative sleep. Aware that even in the quietest, darkest hours, small victories and subtle humour endure, wrapping the soul in gentle, historically flavoured peace. The world outside is quiet now, wrapped in the soft darkness of late night, yet inside your home, subtle sounds rise and fall like a delicate symphony. You lie in bed, arms smooth, posture relaxed, blankets tucked carefully around you, and allow your ears to wander across the gentle soundtrack of domestic life at rest. Each creak, whisper, and sigh of the house is both soothing and mildly amusing, a reminder that life continues even in the absence of your active attention. The floorboards sigh softly under the gentle weight of time, stretching and settling as if the house itself has spent the day performing delicate exercises. Each creak is a whisper from history, a note in a symphony of domestic existence that reminds you of every careful sweep, polish, and chore completed earlier. You imagine past inhabitants, long gone, performing the exact same rituals, their footsteps echoing faintly in the wood, joining with yours across the centuries in a quiet, invisible harmony. From the kitchen comes the faint hum of settling pots and pans. The metal contracts and relaxes as it cools, producing a subtle series of clicks and whispers. You listen closely, finding the sound both calming and oddly amusing, imagining it as a conversation between objects, a teapot gossiping with a saucepan, a cutting board quietly sighing at the day's tasks. Each sound feels alive, a gentle reminder that even inanimate objects hold a memory of the day's work, and that your own tiny triumphs ripple quietly through the household. The wind whispers softly outside, brushing against windows and rustling the curtains in slow, deliberate movements. It carries faint aromas, a hint of coal smoke from distant chimneys, the subtle fragrance of night-blooming flowers, and the lingering scent of the lavender and perfume you applied earlier. Each inhalation is soothing, grounding, and almost meditative, connecting you to both the present moment and the faint echoes of centuries past. The wind is gentle, playful, and completely non-judgmental, unlike the faintly anxious gaze of imagined relatives or neighbours in daylight hours. Occasionally, a distant sound breaks the soft rhythm. A dog barking, a horse shifting in the stable, the faint patter of a small animal on the roof. Each interruption is subtle, brief, and adds texture to the nighttime landscape. You listen with a mixture of amusement and curiosity, imagining tiny narratives for each sound, the dog delivering a polite warning, the horse rehearsing its own midnight performance, the rooftop animal tiptoeing carefully as if it understands the delicate balance of the house at rest. Every small noise becomes part of the comforting, absurd tapestry of evening life. Closer to your room, the soft hum of the house settling continues. A window latch clicks gently, a stair creaks faintly, the fabric of curtains brushes against one another. Each sound is amplified in the quiet darkness, yet rather than provoking anxiety, it produces a gentle sense of companionship. You realize that the house itself is awake in its own way, breathing with the rhythm of history, echoing faintly with every day's small victories and challenges. You breathe deeply, letting each noise, each subtle movement, envelop you in calm. The house's gentle symphony is soothing, a perfect counterpoint to the day's busy rituals. The creaks, whispers, and distant hums blend seamlessly with your own relaxed heartbeat and the faint lingering scent of lavender and soap. You are aware of the house as a living, breathing presence, quietly accompanying you into sleep. Finally, you close your eyes completely, letting the gentle sounds of the house at night carry you further into rest. Floorboards, wind, and distant animals become a lullaby, a subtle, calming rhythm that guides you towards sleep. Each creak, each whisper is a reminder that life continues quietly, gently, and humorously, even in the darkest hours. The house is alive, and so are you, relaxed, comforted, and ready to drift fully into the restorative embrace of the night. The night is deep now, the house settled into soft shadows, and you lie in bed, arms smooth, posture relaxed, blankets gently tucked around you. A sense of calm pervades the air, yet beneath it, a quiet pride hums, a recognition that you have survived the day, with all its absurdities, challenges, and subtle expectations. Tonight, that survival is not just physical, but emotional, social, and slightly historical, and it deserves to be quietly celebrated. You reflect first on the morning rituals, the careful shaving, the smoothing of arms, the precise application of perfume. Each small task, performed under societal pressure and historical expectation, was a miniature triumph. You acknowledge the discipline required, the subtle humour hidden in the struggle, and the satisfaction of having navigated minor anxiety with grace. In your mind, the morning glows warmly, a triumph of diligence and subtle rebellion against imperfection. Next, you consider the social obligations, letters handled with care, invitations read and responded to, polite conversation conducted with attention and poise. Each interaction was a delicate negotiation, balancing humour, composure, and subtle judgment. You smile softly, recalling the tiny victories, a compliment perfectly timed, a gesture elegantly performed, a minor faux pas avoided. Even small triumphs in this context feel monumental, proof that patience, attention, and a little absurdity can carry you gracefully through history's expectations. The memory of domestic chores surfaces gently. Dusting, laundry, sweeping, cooking, each task a dance of precision and resilience. You recall teetering vases, wandering animals, and collapsing linens, all tamed with quiet skill. The day's physical labour, once tedious and anxiety-inducing, now shines as proof of your endurance and careful attention. Each polished surface, neatly folded sheet, and simmering meal becomes a quiet trophy, reminders that even the most mundane moments hold significance when approached with care and subtle humour. Evening rituals, too, glimmer in reflection. Tea sipped slowly, small confessions acknowledged, and the gentle release of a corset after hours of constraint all contribute to the feeling of accomplishment. You imagine the faintly absurd yet entirely human dance of Victorian expectation. Perfume, posture, etiquette, and resilience, blended into a symphony that only you, in the quiet of your room, can fully appreciate. The triumph lies not in perfection, but in having performed, reflected, and survived with poise. The mind drifts to the night, the soft creaks of floorboards, the distant whisper of wind, the hum of settling household objects. These gentle sounds accompany you, affirming your survival and highlighting the subtle joy of being awake while the world sleeps. The house itself seems to nod in quiet approval, a companion in the small victory of completing a day well navigated. You allow your breath to slow, inhaling calm and exhaling tension. Each heartbeat is a quiet drum of achievement, each sigh a gentle acknowledgement of a day survived with grace, humour, and human resilience. The absurdities of history, corsets, etiquette, powdered arms, delicate letters, fade into a warm, comforting glow. You realise that the quiet triumph is not about perfection, but about persistence, care, and the gentle joy of small victories recognised in the still of night. Finally, you close your eyes completely, letting the awareness of the day's survival settle like a soft blanket over your mind. Smooth arms, careful posture, subtly accomplished chores, and all the tiny triumphs of social, domestic, and personal life become a gentle hum beneath your consciousness. You are safe, calm, and subtly victorious. Sleep approaches, carrying you gently, humor intact, and the quiet triumph of having navigated the absurd, beautiful, and historically rigorous day rests softly in your heart. The room is hushed. The only sounds the gentle settling of the house and the occasional sigh of the wind outside. You lie in bed, arms smooth, posture relaxed, blankets tucked carefully around you, and allow the whispers of history to drift softly into your mind. It's a quiet, almost imperceptible hum, the knowledge that countless women before you performed the same rituals, felt the same anxieties, and experienced the same minor triumphs. Tonight those echoes become companions, softening the present into a comforting, absurdly human melody. You imagine the past in delicate detail. Candles flicker softly, casting shadows that dance across walls, furniture, and the folds of fabric. The faint scent of lavender, soap, and perfumed powders lingers in your nostrils, almost as if it has seeped through time to reach you. You feel a subtle kinship with those who have lain here before, adjusting corsets, smoothing hair, and reflecting on the day's challenges. Even the smallest gestures, stretching an arm, brushing a sheet from the bed, inhaling deeply, become part of a continuum that stretches across centuries. The whispers of history are not loud or intrusive. They are gentle, playful, and occasionally absurd. You hear the faint murmur of imagined letters fluttering through the air, their delicate script carrying both critique and praise. You imagine ancestral hands smoothing clothing, dusting furniture, or carefully arranging a teacup. Each action echoes softly in your mind, a comforting reminder that the rituals of daily life are timeless in their complexity and humour. Even the mundane sounds of the bedroom carry historical resonance. The gentle creak of the bed frame, the soft rustle of blankets, and the subtle sigh of a settling floorboard all remind you that life has always continued quietly under similar circumstances. You smile faintly, imagining the absurdity of human focus, smooth arms, correct posture, perfumed skin, and carefully executed chores, each generation performing its own rituals while the world outside remains unchanged in its indifference. Your mind wanders to private reflections of those long ago, tiny anxieties, fleeting triumphs, and the quiet satisfaction of surviving a day constrained by societal expectation. Perhaps a young woman in 1895 paused to admire her reflection, feeling the slight pressure of her corset and the satisfaction of posture maintained. Perhaps she whispered a small confession to herself, allowing a private smile at an imperfection gracefully navigated. You feel these small echoes resonate in your own thoughts, a gentle, soothing continuity that bridges centuries. The whispers also bring humour. You imagine minor domestic mishaps replayed in slow, absurd detail, a vase teetering, a teacup tilting, a stack of letters threatening to tumble. Even in dreams or reflection, the tiny chaos of daily life carries a humorous undertone. The subtle absurdity is comforting, a reminder that human resilience has always been accompanied by laughter, even if it is quiet, private, and historically flavoured. Finally, you focus on the present, letting the whispers of history settle softly around you. Each breath, each heartbeat, each gentle sigh is part of a rhythm that spans centuries, a quiet acknowledgement that the challenges, triumphs, and absurdities of life are shared across time. The room is dark, fragrant, and safe. The house settled, and your body relaxed. You feel a gentle smile tug at your lips, a quiet amusement and appreciation for the enduring human spirit. As your eyes close fully, the whispers fade gently into stillness, leaving only calm, warmth, and a subtle awareness that you are part of a long, rich history of women navigating life with elegance, humour, and quiet resilience. Sleep is near, soft, and inevitable, carrying you into rest while honouring the absurdly beautiful continuity of human experience. The room is quiet, the night fully settled, and you lie beneath the blankets, arms smooth, posture relaxed, and mind beginning to drift. There is a peculiar comfort in routine, in the familiar rituals that have guided the day. Shaving, dusting, polishing, preparing tea, managing letters, and adjusting the ever-present corset. Each repetition is a gentle anchor, a quiet signal that the world, however absurd or chaotic, has order, rhythm, and familiarity waiting for you. You reflect on how these routines create small pockets of control in a world that otherwise feels governed by expectation and unpredictability. Morning grooming, for instance, is a choreography perfected over centuries. Precise strokes of the razor, careful smoothing of skin, perfume applied with delicate awareness. Each motion is familiar, soothing, and slightly absurd in its importance, yet there is comfort in knowing that these rituals are predictable and entirely under your control. The domestic chores echo similarly in memory: sweeping floors, folding linens, dusting mantles. Each motion is repeated, each step deliberate. The familiarity of these tasks, combined with their absurdity, becomes calming. Even small accidents, linen slipping from your hands, a teacup tipping slightly, are anticipated and absorbed without panic, the routine itself providing a buffer of reassurance. There is a quiet triumph in moving through each task with practiced hands, a rhythm that whispers, "You have done this before, you will do it again." Even social rituals, seemingly unpredictable, carry echoes of routine. The careful crafting of letters, the polite navigation of conversation, the subtle management of judgment and praise, all are exercises repeated countless times over generations. Each small repetition is comforting, a proof that the world, while chaotic, operates according to certain rules that you can anticipate and participate in. These moments of familiarity create a soothing mental landscape, allowing you to move through life with subtle humour and quiet satisfaction. The night deepens, and you feel the weight of these routines settle into your body and mind. Corset removed, tea enjoyed, chores completed, letters written, the day's performances quietly acknowledged. Your muscles relax, your breath slows, and the gentle rhythm of repetition carries you towards sleep. Even the smallest rituals, smoothing blankets, adjusting a pillow, checking that the room is softly fragrant, reinforce the comforting structure of life. There is humour here too. The ridiculous attention paid to seemingly trivial details becomes a source of amusement rather than stress. Your mind drifts further, imagining the countless women who have performed similar rituals across centuries. The familiarity of routine, the absurdity of societal expectation, and the satisfaction of small triumphs have remained constants. You sense a quiet solidarity with them, a connection across time, a comforting reminder that the human experience is anchored by repeated actions, tiny successes, and the subtle humour of managing life within historical constraints. Finally, you allow yourself to focus entirely on the comfort of routine, the soft rustle of sheets, the faint scent of lavender, the lingering aroma of soap and powder, and the memory of each task executed with care. Each element is a gentle reminder of stability, predictability, and personal agency in an otherwise unpredictable world. You feel a quiet satisfaction, a gentle pride in having navigated the day with humour, grace, and resilience. As your eyes close fully, the routines settle into the background, humming softly like a lullaby. The comfort of familiarity enfolds you, blending seamlessly with the calm of the night and the soft whispers of history. Sleep draws nearer, carrying with it the warmth, humour, and subtle victories of a day lived in delicate balance, guided by routine and enriched by the absurdly beautiful familiarity of human experience. The night is deep and still, the house wrapped in soft shadows, and you lie beneath your blankets, arms smooth, posture relaxed, and mind poised at the edge of consciousness. The day's chores, rituals, and minor triumphs have faded into memory, leaving a quiet space for gentle humour to emerge. As your eyelids grow heavy, you allow a soft, private amusement to guide your drift into dreams. A whimsical bridge between wakefulness and sleep. Your thoughts wander first to the absurdities of the day. The delicate balance of a teacup on the edge of a table, the near tumble of a stack of linens, the mysterious, slight wobble of a vase. All replay in slow motion with the exaggerated logic of memory. Each miniature disaster, once a source of tension, now becomes a subtle source of amusement. You chuckle softly, the sound muffled by pillows, as your mind imagines these minor events with heightened drama, a private comedy performed for your eyes alone. The humour is gentle, never startling or harsh, like the faint ripple of a candle flame across a polished floor. You imagine your ancestors performing similar routines, their eyes focused, corsets tight, and minds quietly amused by the small absurdities that pepper every day. Perhaps a letter flutters unexpectedly, a ribbon tangles, or a broom behaves in a way that defies physics. These small incongruities are universal and timeless, shared across generations. The recognition of this shared absurdity produces a comforting, calming effect, a gentle smile that carries you toward dreamland. Even your own body contributes to the humour. Smooth arms, slightly tired from the day's chores, and relaxed posture become a canvas for subtle amusement. You recall the tension of the corset, the faint discomfort of precise posture, and the soft absurdity of having measured every gesture against invisible rules. Now, in the quiet of the night, those memories are softened, reframed as playful reminders of human resilience and the strange, delightful quirks of history. The mind drifts further, blending historical imagery with playful imagination. You picture cobblestone streets lit by flickering gas lamps, floating letters carrying whispered critiques, and teacups moving with the grace of trained dancers. Everything is slightly exaggerated, slightly absurd, yet entirely comforting. The gentle humour turns the strange and unfamiliar into familiar companions, making the edges of reality soft and safe, a bridge for the mind to cross into sleep. As the night deepens, the soft humour intertwines with physical sensations, the warmth of blankets, the gentle scent of lavender and soap, the quiet settling of the house. Each element combines with the amusing images of minor mishaps, historical absurdities, and private triumphs, forming a cocoon of comfort. The mind is lulled not by silence alone, but by a playful, gentle awareness that life, even in the strictest historical forms, has always contained small moments of ridiculousness. Finally, your thoughts slow completely, laughter fading into a quiet, smiling calm. The day's events, the absurdities, and the minor triumphs blend into a soft narrative that floats behind your closed eyelids. The gentle humour acts like a lullaby, coaxing the mind into the fluid, dreamlike space between consciousness and sleep. You breathe evenly, deeply, and fully, feeling warmth, amusement, and calm spreading through your body. Sleep approaches, carrying you softly, buoyed by the subtle joy of historical absurdities and the private delight of tiny victories. You drift into dreams, arms smooth, posture relaxed, and mind gently entertained, aware that even in the quietest hours, life's humour and humanity endure. Tonight, the gentle absurdity of history becomes a companion, guiding you into rest with warmth, comfort, and calm amusement. The night stretches quietly around you, deep and velvety, like the softest blanket imaginable. You lie beneath your covers, arms smooth, posture relaxed, and mind slowly surrendering to rest. The day, with all its absurdities, triumphs, and gentle anxieties, has come to a close, leaving only a sense of calm satisfaction. There is a rare kind of peace that follows a day fully lived, a quiet glow that warms the body and softens the edges of thought. You reflect gently on the rhythm of the day: morning rituals, domestic chores, social obligations, evening tea, corsets worn and removed, small triumphs quietly acknowledged. Each action, though sometimes absurd or taxing, contributed to a seamless, deliberate flow. Now, in the quiet of night, those moments settle into memory like soft golden dust, leaving a subtle hum of accomplishment that is both comforting and calming. The physical sensations are soothing. Your arms rest smoothly on the blankets, muscles relaxed after hours of gentle effort. The warmth of the bed, the subtle scent of lavender and soap lingering in the air, and the quiet hum of the house all combine to create a cocoon of calm. Even the faint creaks of floorboards and the whisper of wind outside feel reassuring, familiar companions in the tranquility of night. The world seems paused, waiting patiently, while your mind drifts between reflection and dream. You allow yourself a private smile as you remember the small absurdities of the day. Teacups almost spilling, letters fluttering unexpectedly, vases wobbling precariously, corsets demanding attention. Each memory, once a source of minor stress, now carries humour and charm. The mind softens these incidents into gentle amusement, a recognition that life, even in the strictest historical form, contains moments of ridiculous beauty. You can almost hear the faint laughter of ancestors who, centuries ago, performed the exact same rituals with similar grace and restraint. The satisfaction of having navigated the day fully begins to settle more deeply. Every tiny triumph, from smoothing your arms to folding linens with precision, from conducting polite conversation to enjoying a quiet cup of tea, is recognized quietly in your mind. The absurdities of expectation and etiquette, once pressing, now feel like gentle companions. You realize that the day's richness comes not from perfection, but from engagement, attention, and the subtle humor found in human effort. As your breath slows, the mind softens further. Historical reflections mingle with personal contentment, forming a gentle, almost musical rhythm of thought. You imagine the house as a living, breathing presence, floors sighing softly, walls holding memories of countless days, and furniture resting quietly after hours of faithful service. Each element participates in the calm of night, reassuring you that everything has its place. Everything has been honoured, and everything is now at peace. Finally, your thoughts drift completely into the present. The warmth of the blankets, the scent of lavender, the soft rhythm of your heartbeat, and the faint creaks of the house combine to create a gentle lullaby. The day's work is done, the minor anxieties dissolved, and the gentle humour of life lingers softly in the mind. There is no urgency, no expectation, only calm satisfaction and the soothing sense of a day fully lived. Your eyelids close completely. Sleep, gentle and inevitable, begins to claim you. The peace of a day well navigated carries you softly into dreams, wrapping you in warmth, comfort, and quiet amusement. Tonight, history, humour, and human resilience converge in a serene embrace, reminding you that even the smallest moments, absurdities, and triumphs contribute to a life rich, full, and beautifully lived. The night has deepened fully now, and you lie in bed, arms smooth, posture relaxed, blankets tucked comfortably around you. The house is quiet, the faint hum of distant wind and subtle creaks of floorboards forming a soft, hypnotic rhythm. Tonight, as you surrender to sleep, the mind begins to weave together history, humour, and imagination into a gentle, comforting tapestry, a lullaby of past lives, minor triumphs, and absurdly human routines. You drift first through memories of the day, the careful shaving, the subtle fragrance of lavender, the precise folding of linens, the measured sips of tea, and the small triumphs of polite conversation navigated successfully. Each act, once tinged with anxiety or effort, now appears in soft focus, humorous, and oddly beautiful. The absurdities, corsets constricting and releasing, letters fluttering unexpectedly, teacups wobbling on tables, become playful companions in your thoughts, coaxing a quiet smile even as the mind relaxes further. Historical imagination begins to mingle with the present. You see gentle visions of women centuries ago performing identical routines, smoothing hair, adjusting corsets, inhaling faint perfume, dusting shelves, writing letters with exacting care. Each figure, though long gone, shares a private humour and a quiet resilience. Their minor anxieties, their subtle triumphs, and their daily absurdities echo in your mind like soft whispers, reminding you that human life has always balanced discipline with delicate whimsy. The sensations of the present reinforce the gentle calm. Your body sinks deeper into the bed, the blankets warm and comforting. The scent of lavender, soap, and faintly perfumed air weaves through the room. Your heartbeat slows, breaths deepen, and the soft rustle of fabric as you shift slightly blends seamlessly with distant wind and the quiet creaks of wood. Every element forms a chorus of subtle comfort, supporting the mind's drift towards sleep. Even the smallest imagined historical absurdities become soothing. You picture a corset gently tapping out a rhythm on a wooden chair, a teacup floating across a table, a ribbon dancing lazily in a draught, and letters hovering in mid-air, whispering polite critiques. The humour is light, delicate, and playful, never jarring, never disruptive. It acts as a gentle escort for the mind, guiding thought away from tension and towards soft amusement, curiosity, and serenity. Your reflections expand beyond the day to the broader passage of history. You sense the continuity of human experience, generations of women performing rituals both mundane and elaborate, managing expectation and absurdity with grace, humour, and quiet resilience. The tiny victories, subtle triumphs, and minor misadventures of the past become companions for your rest, reminding you that life's challenges are shared, humorous, and endlessly human. Finally, you let go completely. Thoughts soften into a gentle blur, images fade into the quiet of the night, and your mind surrenders fully to sleep. The warmth of blankets, the scent of lavender, the faint creaks of the house, and the imagined whispers of history merge into a cocoon of calm. You are carried into rest by humour, history, and the subtle acknowledgement of countless minor triumphs, both your own and those of women who came before you. Sleep embraces you fully, soft, inevitable, and comforting. The absurdities of the day, the small victories, the gentle whispers of history, and the delicate humour of human life all blend seamlessly into dreams. Tonight, the soft embrace of sleep is guided by the warmth of historical whimsy, a soothing lullaby woven from centuries of shared experience, gentle triumph, and the quietly enduring humour of life,